This one's called If I Told You. It goes like this. What if I told you that all life is African? What if I told you the oldest human culture developed in Katanga, Congo? Or what if I told you the Ethiopian Australopithecus known as Lucy is also known as Dinquinesh? What if I told you that every black face is a descendant of an ancient Egyptian, or that no country has as many pyramids as Sudan? What if I spoke about the library in Kemet and Alexander's pillaging of knowledge, the burning of books of culture and philosophy? What if I told you the Vikings were the most preeminent slave owners and that the 11th century saw Dublin as the slave capital of the world? Would you believe me if I told you that white people enslaved their own kind first? Or that St. Patrick was a runaway slave, a drapetomaniac? What if I told you that Pythagoras was taught by some smooth-faced Egyptians, as was Thales and Anaxagorou? What if I explained Egyptian mystery schools to you? What if I told you that all great European philosophers were trained by black Africans in Iona? Or what if I told you what Herodotus said about the Colchians? What if I told you what Gandhi said about Western civilization? What if I told you about Europe's dark ages and how they sat in comparison to the empires of Mali and Kush? What if you knew about Abu Bakr II? What if I told you that Columbus never stepped foot on American soil and that Africans were navigating the globe with papyrus reed ships in 2600 BC? What if you knew about Cheops boats and that Europeans didn't have a concept for latitude or longitude until the 18th century? What if I told you that racism was invented? What if I told you that we only ever oppress those who are powerful? What if I told you in the 16th and 17th century white indentured servants and black slaves fought subjugation together? What if I told you about J.F. Blumenbach and his obsession with racial purity and white slave women? What if you knew about David Walker's appeal? What if I told you what Columbus said when he first saw Arawak Indians in the Bahamas? What if I told you about the suggestion made by priest Bartolomé de las Casas? Then what if I told you how many lives were lost to the grin that swept across Columbus's face? What if I told you nothing has really changed and that racism is ever present? What if I told you about the Battle at Wounded Knee in 1890 and the massacre of 300 Native Americans with a Hotchkiss gun? What if I told you Native Americans today have a life expectancy of 46? What if I told you the enemy is white supremacy? What if I didn't care for African history or the genocide of indigenous people and instead I wrote poems about Winston Churchill, Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln, and I refrained from talking about the 54 countries that make up the British Commonwealth? What if I told you the abolition of slavery had nothing to do with philanthropy but pure economics? What if I told you that religion has killed more people than it saved and that nothing can buy you peace? What if I told you that a teacher's job is to help you understand what you already know? What if I told you about freedom? What if I promoted violence instead of self-reliance? What if I said everyone that looked like you was a killer, a bomber, a terrorist? What if I told you the media lies, that the news is censored and that everything has an agenda? What if I told you about Milton Friedman and the Chicago School of Economics? What if I told you about neoliberalism? What if I told you about Edward Bernays, or that since the invasion of Iraq, 110,721 innocent civilians have died nameless? What if I told you about the systematic imprisonment of black and Latino males in America? What if you knew the worth of every prison inmate? What if I told you about Francis Galton and the eugenics movement? What if I told you about NSSM 200? And what if I quoted Emerson or Thoreau and I worked on a building site? Or I knew that Shakespeare invented over 1,700 words, including the word assassination? What if I was reading the Apology on the bus ride to work and work happened to be cleaning office toilets? What if I was ugly but knew how to make her smile? What if I told you that music is not popular but universal, intelligent noise resonating from the soul of the universe? What if I told you every bit of me is every bit of you? And what if I stopped writing for a second, or a week, or a year? Would I miss something? What if I told you that love is forgiveness breathing, and every man wants to be held as tightly as every woman does? What if I told you that we all want to be wanted and that cruelty is how weak men respond to fear? What if I told you the hardest man I'd ever known loved me the most? What if I told you the first time I punched someone I felt strong, but the crying that I did that night introduced me to a weakness I'd never felt before? What if I told you the first time I kissed a girl, an earthquake found my legs, and each time I get my heart broken, I become a better poet? What if I told you that a single act of genius is the result of 1,000 failures, and every master knew nothing at the start? What if I told you I believe in you, in your heart and your life? What if I told you the greatest gift I ever received was being told I can? What if I told you that you wrote this? Now, what if I never told you?